Yeah, just kind of rough in general, right?
Yeah, I know we're going to be hopping into the game in a second, introducing the players and stuff, but just like, I think there are a lot of names of different Zerg players that I think typically, when you compare them to someone like Lambo, he's already been losing to a lot more recently against players that normally you think would be a few steps below Lambo, like an Eggs, like a Micah, and things like that, like a Nikic or a B. So I think this is going to be a very tough match for YoungYakov, but hey, you know what? If he's able to even take a map over here, that already gives me actually so much confidence that YoungYakov is a different YoungYakov than ever before in the past.
All right, well, it all starts with map number 1 in the top right-hand corner, our blue Zerg from the Shopify Rebellion, Lambo.
Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the red Zerg player from CSO. Can he show us that he is no longer young? He's maybe middle-aged Yakov.
You want to call him
that didn't come out how I
you want to call him mid Yakov? Like, I feel like mid Yakov's a bit insulting as well for your dragon. Like, he's so mid.
Teen Yakov.
All right, Teen Yakov. Yeah.
Adult Yakov. Adult Yakov. Let's go with that.
Dude, does he have to change the Yakov part though? So it because right now it's like alliteration, young Yakov, right? So does he have to?
So it's adult Akov. Adult Akov. You just dropped the Y.
Adult Akov or adult Adkov or something like that.
Adkov.
I have no idea.
I'm digging it.
I've learned I really shouldn't try and name things, so I should probably stop.
It's okay. See, when we started the day, I was talking about how like whenever I cast with you, I always think back to the first time I got you to cast with me, and I just kind of drove you off the edge with a bit of insanity, and it's conversations like this that always just remind me of that, of like, yes, when I get Wardy to truly stretch the metaphors and the examples and the jokes that we make to the true bitter end where they don't make sense anymore, but we're still just rolling with it.
I used to be so hardcore back then as well, right? Like, I only wanted to talk about the game, and you'd be like making a joke and be like, but the first minute and a half's happening for your dragon, like, the build orders.
Dude, that was back in the day too, of like Heart of the Swarm. Yeah, it's like 6 worker starts, and you wouldn't see the cybernetics cores finish up until like 5 minutes in. It's like, all right, but we need to cover what's going on here. Yeah.
Two cheeky lings gonna go nibbling up on the hatchery, and a couple lings of YoungYakov coming up to fight back. Pretty similar setup so far. Lambo's lings just across the map. He actually made 2 extra ones, whereas YoungYakov only made defensive ones. So a little bit less information, but just obviously an extra drone or so, so being a bit greedier, and Baneliness at about the same time between the two of them as well. So obviously there's a lot of moments in this matchup where you can start aggression, where you can suddenly just spam lings and go all out with your fights and so on. So a lot of opportunities basically coming up soon, but not really here right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing I do want to talk about, just in terms of, I was listening at some of the players and stuff that YoungYakov maybe has been losing to or struggling with more recently, and I do think one of the commonalities I see, and it's hard to tell because I think he just hasn't had a lot of like major success in tournaments against Zerg players lately, but one of the major things I can definitely point out is a lot of the players I was listing, like Micah, like B, like Eggs and stuff, is that they're pretty aggressive Zerg players. So I do kind of wonder, normally I'd say like, oh, if you're the favorite, usually playing kind of like a safer, standard, longer term style can be like the way through. But also, if YoungYakov is not necessarily doing as well against like some of the more aggressive players, I'm curious what I would prefer to see more from Lambo actually approaching this series.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like Lambo just wants to play kind of... It's hard in ZVZ because the standard sometimes is just being the aggressor, like he's going to be here.
That's true.
Like, the thing is, like, sometimes hitting these timers, you can hide things so well and you can do things so well that actually just being the aggressor is straight up the better thing to be, because you can just get it done already, right? Like, is it risky to be all in? Sure. Is it absolutely the right call right now because YoungYakov does not have the right information and has 0 prep? 100%, right? So, yeah.
Which may be the case right now, as we do have lots of roaches and stuff flooding out now, but YoungYakov, It's 13 drones higher because Lambo has been flooding out exactly those units. He forewent +1 missile attack, and look at the perfect timing of this from Lambo. This is right before that investment of +1 missile attack is actually going to be paying off. Oh my god.
Chunkaling's going down to start this off as well, and Lambo just shows up and is going to start wreaking havoc on this base. This does not look good. But YoungYakov here is, well, I mean, a bunch of drones going down off over to that right-hand side, and the Roach is just not enough at all. Obviously, you just can't seem to get the numbers up. He lost a few lings to Banley at the start of all of this too, and it really feels as though this is going to be pretty convincing from Lambo in game one. I mean, we've got Roaches coming up, and they're about to have +1 missiles. It's just, there's a lot that has to be done to make this count, and obviously all these Roaches are spawning on different bases, whereas everything from Lambo is breaking into the natural right here and right now. And yes, the numbers just do not add up at all for YoungYakov. He is still heavily behind on Army. GG.
Yeah. Lambo says, welcome to adulthood. It sucks. That's it. It sucks. Welcome to.
Sucks.
This is your welcome. I don't know if other people have that experience. So it's like after you graduate from school, you're all hopeful and cheery and everything, and then you get into the workforce and it's like, welcome to hell. Yeah.
Well, the admin.
It's rough, man.
The admin just called YoungYakov YY. I like that. I never thought about calling him YY.
Why oh why?
Why did I have to play ZVZ today?
Yeah.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah. I do think it's a little bit rough because I think, again, this is the reason why I brought up a lot of the stats, not only against Lambo, but just to ZVZ, is I do think YoungYakov has been seeing, especially more recently, some more success in other matchups.
Yes.
And I mean, it goes to show the fact that like YoungYakov, he's sitting 1-1. He ended up defeating Milky Cow. I think has also been doing pretty well lately. Yeah. Things like that. So I do think it is just kind of rough that he did get, not specifically just like Lambo is a good player and everything. He got a Zerg, and it does seem like this is kind of a matchup he's struggling with. That last game, I don't know if I can say it's like super representative of, the state of things or like the way he just got outplayed or something. He just did not see the attack coming, but it's those little things that really matter in ZVZ. Being able to get that scouting information, being able to identify what your opponent is up to if a big attack is coming. That's so much of what ZVZ is.
That is ZVZ, right? Like,
yeah.
you got CVT, which is the epic mechanics macro matchup. ZVZ is the brains, the strategy, the trickery, and all of that matchup, right? So, yeah, it's rough because it's all it's one thing to get better at your mechanics and get better all around, but being able to figure out all the twists and turns of a ZVZ can be very difficult. And sometimes it can also work in your favor as the underdog getting back into it. But just as much the other way around, where sometimes it can feel like there's endless possibilities, and how can you ever prepare for the right one? In the bottom right, why? He might be asking himself after that game one. It is YoungYakov.
A guy who I think actually does exceptionally well when it comes to big brain gaming and those kind of play styles and stuff. It is our blue Zerg player from Shopify Rebellion sitting up 1-0. It's Lambo. Definitely one of those cerebral players. Well, I mean, Wardy, in that game number one, I was asking the question, do you try and play more aggressive? Do you try and play more macro? And I mean, it works really well to just get aggressive in game number one. But here's the thing. I think going back to what you were just saying, ZVZ really is just one of those matchups where, and I think you were even saying this as the answer to my question last game, it is something you just kind of do have to play a little bit by ear. You don't really just get to say, this is my game plan and strategy that leads up to the 10-minute mark. Like that, it's not like PvZ or PvT where you can really kind of do those sort of things, or TvZ. You really do have to play a lot of things by ear. But Lambo decided to get aggressive early on, and gosh darn it, it really did work well.
Yeah, absolutely, right? It's just one of those situations where it's just one of those situations, right, where even Cyril, playing an underdog, doesn't feel the need to play safe. He just plays aggressive and everything too, right? Like, and then you just, because actually being aggressive puts the game in your own hands in a big way, right? So you take control, and that's something that is a big thing a lot of the time.
No, I think that's a fair point, because if you're the one putting on aggression first, you at least know kind of where your build order and stuff maybe stacks up against what they're doing. Whereas if you're trying to play like a safer style and stuff, you really have to be ready and prepared for a big change up in what your game plan is at any given moment that you scout out that there's some kind of big attack coming and stuff. So being aggressive, I think that's a really astute point, is being aggressive, you get to be less reactive. Like, you're the one setting the pace of things. You don't have to react nearly as much as being the safer, longer term game plan player, where you are basically saying, do I need to start preparing to be all in, or do I need to just be continuing to churn out drones and stuff? Aggressive player just gets to say, yeah, I'm all inning. I know what I'm doing. I don't care what you're doing. I have a plan and I'm doing it.
Yeah. I'm completely behind that as Bane Nest comes down here from YoungYakov, by the way. No Bane Nest from Lambo. What he could potentially do here is play a high ling count, be aggressive with those lings, and then behind it you drop the Rotron. And it just allows you to kind of, get to roaches without the Bane lanes and hit a good timing, as that's a lot of lings. So it does seem to be that, I mean, you can go Bane Nest behind this, but a lot of the time the Rotron is just a neat follow-up. You skip the Baneling Nest, and because you're being aggressive, you just don't need the Bane Nest, because you just pick and choose the fights without the need for Banelings. And like I say, you just skip up to roaches, and then you can kind of go from there however you see fit. YoungYakov making his own round of lings to start responding here, but will they be in time to protect this base as Lambo has already put some good damage onto it, and it's going to get nibbled out. A couple Banes start to morph, and Lambo can actually take this fight right now. Lings from the other side get a bit of a surround, and as he comes in with even more Lings, he continues to surround, and obviously those morphing Banelings might even be in trouble as well. Neither of them get up. The Queen goes down, and Lambo, don't tell me he's just going to get it done on the Ling Flood. Now he starts up a Baneling Nest as well, so he might just be able to keep going with Ling Bane pressure from here. The damage he's about to do is unfortunately going to be absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's brutal too because, GG just gets called.